What we'd like to do now is to talk about two very different case studies to show you how you might approach objects within your collections. And the first is a cap, and the second is a glove.
Now, this object is a 16th century cap in the collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum. When we researched this cap, we started by going right back to the beginning of its material life. It's made of wool, and so we started by researching early modern sheep shearing. We found that people of all genders were employed to help with sheep shearing, but that women were paid less than men. Only by a couple of pence, but of course that reflects the fact that their labour was considered of less value. So immediately this cap gave us the history of the gender pay gap. Where women's labour was really central to the history of this cap, though, was in the spinning of wool. Now, spinning for women was both practically and ideologically important in this period. Practically speaking, it was primarily women who carried out wool spinning. Spinning was something that women could do alongside other household chores and while keeping an eye on their children. It didn't allow them to earn much of a living, so in England a woman could earn about 3 or 4 pence a day through spinning. A loaf of bread cost about a halfpenny, so you could live on spinning, but you couldn't live well. When I say spinning was ideologically important though, I mean that women were encouraged to spin because it would keep their hands busy and because it would keep them doing something productive. That meant that even aristocratic women who didn't need to earn money were encouraged by religious discourse and by educational texts to take up spinning anyway. Encouraging women to spin was, in many ways, a form of ideological control. It was a way of fixing them in a particular gendered role, in the tradition of all the women in the Bible and in mythology who had spun before them. It's not that men and boys never did spinning. Actually, in orphanages and workhouses, they certainly did. But it's that spinning was considered a female thing to do, and specifically a kind of virtuous occupation for women. Now, the V&A actually has 14 very similar caps to this one. And the reason for that is that there was a law passed in 1571 saying that every non-aristocratic man had to wear one on Sundays and religious holidays. And this was basically a law aiming to keep the cap industry afloat. So this is a man's hat in a very entrenched sense. It is legally gendered as male. This begs the question, if this is legally a man's hat, what happens if a woman or a person assigned female at birth were to wear it, or were to wear another kind of hat? The answer, it turns out, is that lots of men get very angry. Now, women weren't supposed to wear hats in this period, you see. They wore bonnets or they wore headdresses. And so if anyone assigned female at birth did wear a hat, then for some people at least, that was a problem. Now, late 16th and early 17th century England saw a panic about gender non-conforming fashion and about how it was enabling people to change their sex just by wearing the wrong clothes. And overwhelmingly, the rhetoric was focused around headwear. Headwear, it turns out, was a kind of nexus of gender conformity or non-conformity in this period. So we've got no idea who wore this specific cap, but we know that if a person who was assigned female at birth had chosen to wear it, it would have been a really powerful expression of gender non-conformity. We might ask then, why might a person assigned female at birth have chosen to wear this cap? Well, it might first of all be for reasons of fashion or taste. It might be as part of accessing greater independence and safety in the street. It might be because the idea of women wearing men's clothes in this period was associated with sexual attractiveness and sexual licentiousness. And it might, of course, be because for some people, masculine clothing was what felt most comfortable to them, in line with their own experience of their gender. And all these possibilities can be held in tandem. And all these possibilities mean that this cap has the capacity to communicate a whole range of kinds of female agency and trans agency too.